Kevin Warsh's hearing, it was fantastic. It was very interesting. The man has very interesting economic theory that is much more in line with what I believe is legit. And it's going to be a huge change from Jerome Powell. Well, Susan Kokinda did a great breakdown on it. I recommend everybody watch it. It's 12 and a half minutes, easy to watch. I'm not going to get into her whole video, but she did post it with this. Kevin Warsh said the quiet powder out loud at the Senate confirmation. Regime change at the Fed. Everyone missed it. The empire didn't. Susan Kokinda and what Warsh and the Production Act Energy Order, Mark Carney's toy soldiers have in common. Very good video. But here is Warsh in the quote she just brought up. And listen very carefully what he says here.
My preferred definition of stable prices is a little different than most academics. I believe that price stability should be a change in prices such that no one's talking about it. That's an old-fashioned definition, but I think it's still valid. And the sooner that we can reform the institution with my colleagues, if confirmed, the sooner we can ensure price stability, and we can have a new set of leaders atop the institution with high, credible, ethical standards to return the Fed to what it should be. The independence that both Chairman Scott and Senator Warren mentioned, critically important. But independence has to be earned, and it's earned by delivering on the promises, the commitments that the Fed has made. And as the Fed hasn't delivered on those promises, we shouldn't be surprised that we hear politics that are entering the room at the Fed. We need to get the politics out of it so the Fed can focus on its day job, deliver on full employment and stable prices.
You read between the lines there. He just talked about a full-on leadership change at the Fed in everywhere sense and form. And then he said, return the Fed to what it's supposed to be. Well, there's a lot of people who would say the Fed shouldn't be at all. So there is some reading between the lines there. But if you listen to the entire hearing, you can tell this guy is going to be radical. One of the things he brought up, which was fantastic, is the idea, inflation has all of a sudden become a colloquial. Inflation is the money supply has increased, and so all prices go up. That's what inflation is. Just because there's more money supply, it's the rising tide that lifts all boats. That's inflation. And he broke that down, and the Democrats just didn't know what to do with themselves because they're going. And so he breaks that down and says how he believes we're using the wrong stuff to measure inflation. And what he basically brought up was, inflation. The way we should do it. He talks about a system that's much closer to what Trueflation does, which is the account I always show you guys when we're talking about inflation, where it's at. And Trueflation, they have inflation at under 2% right now. And it makes sense because we haven't been printing more money. So inflation should remain low. Now, what Warsh also believes in is that we shouldn't print money. We just should not be doing that. And he wants to get all the assets out of the Fed as well. In other words, he's going to go in and he wants to undo everything that's happened in the Fed since Obama, when they used the financial crisis to completely change the Fed, completely make it more powerful than ever, and completely change our monetary policy in America so that the banks, we basically became a financial center, our economy. He completely took away the idea of middle class owning assets. We own less assets than ever. It went all to the top, wage increase disparity because all the assets went to the top. And then he got rid of all the services. Like the service sector just gets weaker and weaker except for healthcare. Obama, what he put into place in that has been killing our economy and allowing all the fat cats to get richer. And some of those fat cats are just good businessmen. They're not all bad people. I'm not an eat the rich guy. So most people who, they took advantage. It's like Trump said when Hillary was like, Donald Trump paid no taxes that year. And he's like, yeah, because I'm smart. He used the law. It was legal. And that's, but then there's plenty of them who are predatory. So don't get me wrong. There's some awful ones up there. But that's beside the point. The point is that it was meant to kill and imprison or enslave in a way most of us by putting us into debt slavery, by never letting us get ahead. That's why my generation is the first generation in American history that's not going to be, well, not on track to be wealthier than our parents, more successful than our parents. First time in history, in American history. That's why it's all because of Obama and what that administration did. It was all part of destroying America. Because once you destroy the middle class, well, then you have the only people with real power, because the middle class was the most powerful bloc in America. As a whole, we had more power than the people at the top. And that was the great thing about America. It was one of the great equalizers in America. Sure, there were super powerful individuals, but on the whole, politically, the middle class ran this country. And that's how it was supposed to be. And that's how it mostly was for the first 150 years. We lost all that, and it started with the Fed, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And then Obama put it into full effect. And basically, it was the final death blow to the middle class if it had been allowed to carry out. And what we were going to become is an oligarchy ruled by the few at the top. That's what we were going to become, because they were going to have all the assets, everything. And they were just hoping all of us, they could get us on government welfare, get us on the dole. And then we would just keep voting for more and more benefits, more and more welfare from the government to bankrupt the government. And eventually they were, going to let a lot of us just die off. That's what COVID was about. That's what the COVID vaccines are all about. Thank God for Trump. He interrupted it and stopped all of that. But Warsh is now going to be the guy who undoes the Fed aspect of that, which will be huge. It'll reset our markets to get back in line with the real economy. This will be a big part of that. It'll stabilize our economy and help us build prosperously moving forward. Get back more to the American system of economy we had in the 1800s. So this is a big deal, and he's awesome. And people are wondering if he was going to be great. Everything I've found about him is awesome. I truly think he's going to massively change things, which moving forward, it's even another hit against the whole Trump's the technocrat, big, market guy, Wall Street guy. That's all he cares about. All he cares about are rich people. Warsh is a good example that that's just not true, because all that stuff that caused wage discrepancy and got the middle class out of assets, Warsh is going to undo as much of that as he can at the Fed. That's huge. And it might weaken the Fed to the point where eventually they get rid of it. Or maybe the other part is, because Warsh is a big critic of how the Fed's been doing stuff, the other thing is maybe he gets behind the scenes and start finding out the kind of stuff we need to get out to convince Congress to get on board also with disbanding the Fed. So who knows, guys? We can dream, right? But he's also, after listening to one of the smartest men I've ever heard speak about economics, and he also just listen to this little talk about what could be coming for the future.
What we call AI in a couple of years, we'll just call business. And AI is going to make almost everything cost less, and the U.S. can be a big winner. And it's a hugely exciting moment. If I were to step back for a minute, if I were the president, what I'd be worried about is a central bank that doesn't see any of that. A central bank that is stuck with models from 1978, governance from a prior period, and don't recognize we could be at the front end of a productivity boom. And if I were the president, I'd be worried that they might not see it. And they might think economic growth is somehow going to be inflationary. I think we were probably in the early innings of a structural decline in prices. Ken sees it on the front lines of real businesses. And I think if you look over the period of the next year.
Did you guys hear what he just said? AI, he said, in just a few years, he'll just consider it business. This is something I've been saying for years. I've been using AI frequently since it first released to the public in its current form. And lots for marketing, okay? And I got to tell you, I don't think it's nearly as scary as what people are saying it is. I think the fear of AI is actually a psyop, because what I've seen from AI is I think AI is going to unleash the great small business revolution in America. And just like Warsh said, it's going to make things cheaper and cause a productivity boom. That's all good stuff. But what we have to do, and this is going to be the hardest part of the AI boom for a lot of people, the mindset that you just go to college, get a job, and hold on for dear life till you retire. That whole security thing, that's going out the window. That will be gone. And honestly, that's a good thing. We don't need that. It's corporatism. And all that did was empower the corporations and completely change our country and disempower us. What AI is going to do, it's going to make it easier than ever to access wealth if you know how to use it, if you partner with it and use it correctly. Obviously, there's going to be good and bad. I'm not pretending there won't. It's just like the internet. It's like any tool. But if you utilize it correctly, and there's a reason Trump's pushing this so much, because they don't want this, the deep staters, they don't want this being used by the public. Why do you think they are fighting tooth and nail to regulate it down so that other countries could actually pass us, like China? This is one of the Trump's big things. Like, no, because Trump knows it's going to be an excellent tool for us. And you know what it's also going to do? This is one of my favorite parts of AI. It's going to completely eliminate the elitist liberal class, because what AI is going to do, it's going to kill like law. It's just going to, down in 10 to 20 years, we're going to have far less lawyers. That's a good thing. Most lawyers are liberal and, they try to run the country. We'll have AI doing a lot of law stuff. We'll have AI helping with all medical stuff, which it already does a better job diagnosing than most doctors. It's, so all these like liberal elite crap, professors gone. We're not going to need them much anymore. There will still be aspects of that, but what's going to happen is a boom in blue collar work, working with your hands. And also, again, the work of small business, because with AI, you can basically be one person and run a business as if you had 5, 6, 7 employees, if you know what you're doing with AI. I run an entire marketing department at a company now, and that marketing department 9 years ago, 10 years ago, when I first got into marketing, was 9 people. Now I run the entire department at the same production level as that team of 9 with time to spare because of AI. It's incredible. And it's just like the Industrial Revolution. Everybody's like, oh, jobs are going to go away. No, it's just going to be different. And you got to get past that. But the age of corporatism, where you went to college and you just hoped that you got a good job, and then you held on to that crappy job that you hate in 30 years, but you held on to it just because, it pays you, a half decent salary with a 3% raise in healthcare every year. And you never really get wealthy, but you're never poor. And then you get to retire when you're 65 and, you can barely move anymore. Yeah, that whole mindset, it's going to completely die because of the AI era. Warsh sees that. Trump sees that. And it's very good soon that most other people say it. I even tell my kids, I'm like, I don't care if you go to college. Don't go, honestly. It's probably bad for you if you're paying for it. Go if it's free. If you get scholarships, go. If it's not, don't pay for it, or wait till you're 23 and then you get all the government stuff. But don't go. Plus you're too young to know what you want to do anyways. Go work, make money, earn skills. But I also tell them this. I say, learn business and learn AI. If you learn those two things, you're guaranteed to be successful at some point. And that I'm telling you, those who don't do it are going to be left behind, and they're going to be playing catch up. But that's where we're at. And Kevin Warsh sees it. And this is just a good example of the people in charge, whether you like it or not. Trump and Warsh are about to be in charge of a lot of our economy, including Besant. And I'm telling you, they're talking exactly what I've been seeing. And so I think we're heading in that direction.